Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Exoskeletons and Wearable Robotics podcast with me, Bobby Marino of Exoskeleton Report, and Dr. Tom Sugar, the director of the Wearable Robotics Association. How are you, Tom?
Hello, Bobby. I'm doing well, thank you.
So, how was your flight back home?
It was good. It was pretty easy, just about an hour and a half flight from San Jose back to Phoenix.
So Tom came to visit me and we got to try and play with consumer exoskeletons.
And I enjoyed the 2 days, and I was very impressed with the exoskeletons. I was impressed with the comfort, the fit, the use, and how cost effective they were. And I said to Bobby, I think, what did I say? I said, we were having fun. And it was nice just to have a little fun.
We were indeed. So you got to try 3 devices: the Hypershell base model, the Dnsys Pro, and the Hypershell Ultra. And
Yes.
Before we get into it, special thanks to our Patreon supporters. We will not be able to do this without you. On the corporate level, we have special thanks to Humotech, Oxivo, HeroWare, Digity, Hypershell, and Protezo. Thank you so much for your support. If you have the capability, please support us. Visit our Patreon site. Support the effort to spread the word that exoskeleton technology is here. And even though Hypershell is a Patreon supporter, I think that you will see that we do a good job at being objective and neutral.
Yes.
So let's start in chronological order. I think the first thing that impressed me was within 15 minutes of Tom arriving, he already had a device on that was fully armed and operational.
It was. We put it on, we fitted it. I think it only took us 3 or 4 minutes to fit it. Once you want to don and doff it, probably less than a minute or two to don and doff. We downloaded an application and then let that application on the iPhone, and we were able to make changes, go into different modes. So we were able to try on the Hypershell, as you said, base model, the Hypershell Ultra, and then we also tried on the Dnsys. So we were able to try them on, and within 15 minutes, we were using them. We were walking indoors, walking on ramps, and then we went out into the environment and walked all over the place and had fun.
Yeah, and I think you were very impressed that within 15 minutes, you were able to get the whole A to Z onboarding process, including doing a tutorial video.
Yes. And, to give people an example, on the Hypershell, in the application, you could pick between, let's say, 10 different modes, or you could put it on auto detect and have it auto detect the modes. And so we were playing around with that, and we were playing around with you could add a force and decrease force. So I don't know if you want to start just talking about some of the different modes we used, or what do you think, Bobby?
I think I want to keep it in chronological order. So
Okay.
I think that another thing that really struck me was that while maybe not as aggressive as learning how to ride a bicycle where you fall down, I think that you ended up with different impressions of the consumer exoskeletons when you touch them for the first time, 20 minutes into it, versus wearing them for a full day.
You bet.
So it felt like you were on a journey of discovery, but also letting your body and your nervous system kind of like lean into it and go with the flow, so to speak, and to start really getting the full benefit of the device. Can you tell us how that felt from your point of view?
Yeah, the first time I put on the devices, I felt like it was lifting my leg up a little too much in the swing phase. I wasn't totally sure about them. And I started just slowly or slightly jogging, let's say in the apartment, and you couldn't get a great feel for it. But then we immediately went outside and walked up a parking ramp, and I started to get the feel of it, started to use it. What I would suggest to people is start on the low end of the assistance, like 25 to 35%. And then again, as we said, like after we started walking, and I think we remember we said we did like 7,000 steps of just walking when we went to walk outside. And after about 10 or 15 minutes, I could just casually talk with you, and I wasn't even thinking about that I was wearing the exoskeleton. And then I actually increased the power mode a little bit extra, walking outdoors, and I enjoyed it more and more and more. And so to give another example, and you can maybe see some videos that Bobby might put into this podcast, where I started jogging outdoors. I said, oh, okay, now I'm in the rhythm. I got into the rhythm of it, and it really went well. And that was the first day. Should I talk a little bit about the second day? Because I started getting into the rhythm even more the second day. Okay, so then the second day, to give examples, we went to a workout facility. I guess you would just call it a workout facility. And we got on a treadmill, and we put the treadmill at 7, and we have to figure out if it's 7% or 7% grade or 7 degrees. I think it's grade.
I think it's degrees. I think it's the smaller number. I think it was just 7 and 15 degrees.
Okay. So we put it at 7 degrees, and then we put it at 15 degrees. And there I really started to get into the rhythm of it. And it really helping. And there I bumped up the power mode up into the 75, 85%, because I really could use the power mode going up, let's say, a 15-degree incline. And I think the shocking thing was that you'll see is that we could see dramatic differences in the heart rate. And this was just A/B testing, just having fun. So like walk for a minute or two with the exoskeleton, my heart rate was like in the 70s, and then turn the exoskeleton on the exoskeleton on, my heart rate was in the 70s, turn the exoskeleton off, and my heart rate was in the 95s, 98s. Yes, this was exoskeleton turned on versus exoskeleton turned off, but we were just doing some quick A/B testing and having fun. But the point is, I could start to really use the power. Like I thought maybe it was too much power, but it's not too much power if you're ascending hills. And then another place where I started to get into the mode is we got on a Peloton bike, and I started biking. And if you put your foot into the clips, it helps your leg go up and it helps your leg push down, up and down. And I think we should have said that to the audience earlier, that these are pretty incredible exoskeletons because they're pushing and pulling at the leg. I'm just giving you my easy way of saying it. I mean, we could talk about you know flexing and extension and all that, but I'm just going to leave it as it's pulling my leg up in the swing phase and pushing my leg down and giving me some extra torque in the power phase. And going uphill, you could almost feel like it was resisting and holding the one leg while you step with the other leg. And Bobby noticed completely that I was standing straight up, looking completely normal, walking at 15-degree angle with the exoskeleton. And then without the exoskeleton turned off, I was leaning way over, struggling, having, a harder time getting up that ramp. So it was impressive. I mean, just, impressive on the power that it could deliver, that it could go between different modes, and I could get comfortable with it. Other examples were we were just walking along, and then we would take 10 steps up, and it would help me up the steps. And then if you went down stairs, it either went into transparent mode or gave me some extra stability going downstairs. And I'm going to use the word hiccups. It never gave me any hiccups. It never shook or do anything. And it was really good. I mean, I think I said this multiple times to Bobby. The strength of it, the comfort, the ease of use, the app that they had, and the price point was impressive. Was really impressive.
Impressive. It's really a path towards exoskeleton technology becoming mainstream.
It sure is. It sure is. And you can see them being purchased. If you go onto Amazon, you can see that they're getting purchased, and it's impressive. I have built, let me say this to the audience, and you can look it up. I built an air leg system that would flex the legs, and I was doing running on a treadmill with air legs. We did a HISA, which was pushing and pulling the legs, and it was a ramrod that kind of got in and that pushed at the right time. And we did basically walking, running, going up and down stairs with that device. And we built an aerial porter exoskeleton for pushing. So I've worn exoskeletons and built them. And my exoskeletons, we got them to be super light. And I could show like just this unit would snap on to a military IOTV vest, and it could push and pull. But you can hear the gear train. So this was around if I remember right, a 300-to-1 gearbox ratio that was back drivable. And we could also have a ramrod that would get out of the way. So we had a transparent mode. And it is super lightweight. And these units were independent. And just like these consumer exoskeletons, there's a motor in each side. But, their system, to give an example, Hypershell was perfectly quiet, for me at least. I didn't hear anything. The Dnsys, you could hear a little bit, but probably nothing compared to that, we've built exoskeletons over the last 10 years, really powerful exoskeletons for pushing and squat lifting and things like that. But I'm impressed with the consumer exos. Very impressed.
And this is why we wanted to make this episode for everyone. There are countless videos of both Dnsys and Hypershell devices, as well as some of the other companies that we won't go into this. We have an introduction to consumer exoskeleton episode already where we list quite a few of the major players. But I'm not aware of there being a video with a podcast with a exoskeleton builder such as Dr. Sugarhook has built not one, not two, but 3 hip exoskeletons, who then has gotten to try several consumer hip exoskeletons and be able to compare and contrast and be able to say, yes, this is a real exoskeleton. It works as expected or better than expected.
Yeah, right. So do we want to talk about some of the things we did for each one or things we liked and disliked? What do you think, Bobby? Or just do some...
Yeah, in a nutshell, just staying in chronological order.
Sure.
So after the initial introduction, we went on a 7,000 or so step hike right behind NVIDIA headquarters, hoping that maybe someone will look through the window and notice us. It was a fantastic walk where we putting videos up on TikTok, segments of it. We got to feel comfortable with his exo. I got to be in my exo. And there was from my point of view, there was a big difference between Tom trying out one of these devices on a bicycle for the first time versus having some acclimation time and going and strapping correctly on a bicycle the second time, jogging for the first time versus having an hour or so of experience with the exo. And it's really that your nervous system, it's not so much a conscious effort. You can't read about it or watch a lot of videos about it. It's like swimming. You kind of have to do it. So initially when he started jogging, he was not super happy, but then later on he was jogging, getting into it, starting to lean into the device. So I thought it was a great walk. We went through the paces. We tried as many of the modes and conditions that we can come up with. So we obviously did level ground walking. We did ramps up. We did ramps down. We tried gravel, which is one of the new modes. We did stairs up. We did stairs down, all on the outside. And then the next day we went inside in a gym to have more controlled conditions with incline, treadmill, and bicycle again, just to, from an engineering point of view, to get a feel for the devices. None of these are like, I would say scientifically it would hold water, but like quick and dirty to just get a sanity check. It's almost like it's something salty. You put your finger, dip it, and you lick it. It's like, yes, no.
Right. And we did the classic things where, which I've done, and a classic thing that people have done is you wear the device and you're wearing it for a while, and then you put it into transparent mode and you go, ooh, I lost something. And your body has to kind of almost rethink, has to lift your legs more, has to push off more while walking, and it immediately feels like you're missing something. So that's always been my sanity check too, which is if I get into the device and I start using it and I forget about it and then I turn it off, I'm like, whoa, I'm missing something. So I don't know if we mentioned that too, but they do have a transparent mode, and that system was very backdrivable. The Hypershell was very backdrivable, and the Dnsys was good too, but I would say the Hypershell was very backdrivable and really good.
Well, how since we went into that, like, how would you describe to a listener what's the difference? Like, to me, they're both completely backdrivable in terms of effort. I don't think that I'm losing any energy by just having the system on, but I think I can feel a slight vibration with the Dnsys Pro.
Right. So some things I think, yeah, both had walking modes, both had transparent modes. The Dnsys had a little bit maybe of a vibration because you could kind of hear the gearbox and feel the gearbox a little bit. The Dnsys had what I like. What we had is you strap the hip strap. So here's my hip strap, and you'd strap the hip strap on, and we had a spring system that would go in and out and give you a little bit of movement here. And I liked that because then it doesn't feel like it's slipping on your leg a little bit. So the Dnsys had a very nice, I would call it a rail system at the leg. Both systems had, let's call it, curved bars that went around to the front of your leg. You'll notice my system went sideways down the leg, cuffed around the front of the leg so that you could do pushing and pulling, and cuffed around the back of the leg so you could do pushing and pulling. Those systems came down and around to the front. So I think that was a nice touch. I think the nice touch on the Hypershell system is they had activity recognition, and I think there was at least about 10 modes that they could switch between. So that was impressive on the Hypershell. The only thing that maybe we talked about a little bit, it's in the video, that on the Hypershell, this piece cuff was locked in place. So for me, it felt like it was slipping up and down my pant leg a little bit. But know this, I'm a very short user, so it might be a little bit better for other users.
But then you also got used to it.
I did
later,
and then I forgot about it.
But right now, after using it for 2 days, you don't have any skin abrasion or anything to indicate that there was significant slippage.
No, I don't. I think we should tell our users that the motors go back and forth like that. So you can't do right now, you can't bend down, squat, and then both motors go in the same direction to come back up. That's one mode that I could do with my systems, that system can't do. But I'm just, both the Dnsys and the Hypershell both can't do that, which is fine. I mean, they don't claim to do squats or squat lifting, but just if you needed to get out of a chair, it wouldn't be able to help you get out of a chair.
At least not in like the classical sense with both legs lifting up at the same time.
Oh, I guess you were saying if I cheated or something, put one leg forward and one leg back and try to scoot up or do something like that or something. I don't know.
And all of this is subject to software changes and device revision changes.
Sure.
So since we're going into this territory, Tom, of like what you can't use it for, what do we think that you can use it for? Like, who is this for? Like, we've done the engineering part.
Sure.
Like, engineering thumbs up coming from a person that has built, designed, and tested exoskeletons. So that part is set up. Thumbs up on the engineering. Thumbs up on the cost. Who's this for?
I think you and I chatted and talked, and I think it's for a couple different groups. One is if you wanted to go out on a hike and you haven't hiked in a couple of years and you're nervous about, going up a tough trail, this will really help inclines. I also think biking, because it pushes and pulls, you could just get on a regular bike and bike like you normally would, right? So just bike like you normally would, but you'd be able to bike farther with less fatigue. I think let me think, and then we'll get to the other big population. The other big one was that Bobby and I talked about was if you're older and you have weak legs or weak muscles and you just want to get out and walk. This will help you walk if you're older and you have weaker legs. And I think, Bobby, maybe you might, go into a couple of stories you have in that.
Yeah, because I've had the devices courtesy of both Hypershell and Dnsys. Thank you to both companies for shipping devices to me. It's really appreciated. What I've seen is with my grandmother who has a heart condition. She's 84, has triple bypass surgery. She wants to go outside. She loves the mountains, and she can walk. But then the next day, she will pay the price where she will have severe chest pains if she has overexerted herself. And with all three, the Dnsys, the Hypershell base model, and the Hypershell Ultimate, they're capable of reducing the strain on her cardiovascular system. So she can walk for much further and handle much greater inclines. And so far, she has never had any discomfort afterwards. It's not a medical device, it's a consumer device, but it's like the best of both worlds. It's like having a scooter, but you still get to be upright and exercise the body. For me, I'm pretty out of shape. That I was at an event where I was both not feeling well and it was high altitude, and I was seriously considering canceling, but I knew that I had a Hypershell with me. I knew that it was not a toy or some sort of a joke, and I knew that it will help me up the mountain, and I knew that I have a spare battery. So it gave me that psychological peace of mind that I will be able to go up in a group and not embarrass myself. And honestly, I really wish that I had something this when I was younger, because all of my high school friends were not gym buddies, but they were definitely a lot more into outdoor activities. And it would always be literally impossible for me to keep up with them. And just this would have been an incredible technology for me to be able to keep up, start building my stamina, know that it's something that is not just beeping and chirping like a fitness app, which is like, it's time for you to move. It's fine to blah, 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 blah. this thing will physically, as long as you're moving forward, so you can't use it for like dancing, sidestepping, things like that. Right now, these are one motor per leg unit in a single direct plane of movement. It would be it's a complete game changer to know that you have something that will physically help you achieve your movement goals. And as we all know, movement is the key to staying healthy.
You bet. And also, I think we want to make sure we emphasize to the people that this gets you up and walking and moving. It is not giving you 100% power. It is not making your legs atrophy because you're actually out there doing strenuous exercise. And it's just, as Bobby likes to say, it's just giving you that extra little assist and push, especially going uphill. And it's really helping. And I think Bobby and I were talking about this, on the walk, where there's a myth where, exoskeletons might make you atrophy. And it's not that. When you atrophy when you're laying in a hospital bed for 2 days. You're not moving, you're not getting up, you're not standing. That's when you're atrophy. And I have some personal experience about being in the hospital bed for a couple of days, 2.5 days, and I lost 8 pounds, and because I was stuck in a bed, right? And if you're standing up, if you're walking, if you're moving, if you're as Bobby, we were talking on the hike where you need to move, you need your ankles to be pumping blood up and down, you need those lymph nodes being pumped up and down, you need to be standing and putting resistance on the bones and the body. And this would be a nice, device for someone that's older that just wants to keep walking and going out and doing a walk every day. As I said, I was impressed, quite impressed. The amount of torque that it could supply. Again, I would caution people, I would put it on the 30 to 35% level for the first couple of days and then maybe slightly move it up higher. It was important, right? Because we talked about this as the wearable robotics community, that getting old is not a disease. It's not a sickness. So exoskeletons for fitness don't have to be FDA approved. They're just exoskeletons for working out and fitness. And these devices can help people. I really do believe that. And I said it to Bobby. I said, Bobby, this is some of the first devices. I'm like, wow, they are cost effective and can be used by the general public. And as we said, I put it on, and within 15 minutes I was using it. I would say you want to get a couple hours to acclimate to it, but after 6,000 steps, I was using it nicely.
And the way that I see it is, if you ever do a bench press, you have a person that's your spotter, and they have their hands on the weight. But because you have a spotter and because they help finish the repetition, you end up doing 2 more lifts than otherwise you would risk doing, or you can do 3 or 4 more lifts. And they are just supplying like one little finger of force, but you're not decreasing your exercise, you're increasing your exercise as a result. So you would say you can imagine like seeing retirement communities using this to stay active. People that are recovering from surgery out of a hospital, people that have had one mishap or another in their mobility system.
Right. Maybe one leg is stronger than the other, because the Hypershell, if I remember right, Bobby, in an advanced mode, you can make the right leg or the left leg a little bit stronger than the other, which I thought was impressive.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and to be fair, we didn't try all the options. There's like a new software option for low speed stability control. There's all kinds of resistive modes for both devices.
That's right, Bobby.
So it becomes an exercise device that is different from putting elastic bands or weights on your legs, because now the resistance is coming directly at the joint.
Yes. So we did try out the resistive mode, and it was good. It was good. It allowed you to, you had to push through the device. So, that was important. I also want to highlight, I think I said it in one of the, and when I was on one of the treadmills, that people don't realize your right leg is slightly different, let's say, than your left leg. So if you're right-handed, you typically, your right leg might have a larger angles of movement, and maybe you're pushing off a little bit more with your right leg. And so by them having two independent motors, that's important, because I had seen that with my research. In my research, there's couldn't you just have one motor in the back and try to do something? Well, it's possible. It's possible to make that work with a motor and the springs and things, maybe. But I do know this from my research. It's quite surprising how inaccurate the human being's motion is. You think you're walking, perfectly back and forth. But if you talk to any gait person, your joint angles are plus or minus 5%, and the right leg is slightly different than the left leg, and nothing's perfect. But we all get around and do our best, and I think summing it up, some of these people now are calling these things e-bikes for your legs. I know that's a meme out there, but I think I think it makes sense. I think that it literally can help you cycle. It literally can help you go up hills, upstairs, up inclines. It can help you walk, definitely help you jog. Impressive.
Yeah, and this is like one day of testing. We have not put the devices entirely through their paces, but it was a good experience. And I'm glad that you had the chance to do so.
We did a full day of testing on a Saturday, and we did like a half day testing on Sunday. So we put it through some paces, I think.
Some, but not all of them. We didn't do sand. We didn't do powder. We did very little the resistive mode. We didn't play really too much with downslope, downhill, down the stairs to see how to get it to break.
Right, but I was going down those ramps underneath the bridges and then coming back up. So it was good. Any other big thoughts, Bobby? Or anything
Nothing that comes to mind right now. I'm really glad that you were able to come and to get to try these things out. Because as we always say, you can watch videos about exoskeletons, you can talk about exoskeletons, but the best way is to experience it on your body, to put it on and try it out.
You bet. And I think I for the market, for the industry, for the producers, I wish us the best in 2026. And I really hope that consumer market grows. I'll kind of.
Yeah. And maybe since you mentioned 2026, maybe we can make some predictions on where do we think this technology is going. And I can start with that. I think that we're now going to start seeing a release of knee consumer exoskeleton devices. I still haven't gotten to try one myself, but I bet that it's going to feel very different and it will have different applications. I have gotten to try an ankle exoskeleton prototype, which hopefully will become the Nike shoe in just a couple of years from now. That definitely felt really nice, really smooth to give you that forward thrust and get moving. So I'm sure that will have its own usability and use cases. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of the spine, lower back, spine decompression exoskeletons start sliding from occupational devices towards consumer devices.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Bobby about this. I've seen through the industry because, we've been at this, I don't know, Bobby, 8, 9 years, 10 years, 8, 9 years. And so first off, the medical spinal cord exoskeletons attracted a lot of attention, which is great. And they're still doing well. And and they're useful and needed. Then we started seeing military exoskeletons being pushed out more. Then we started seeing in the occupational area, we started seeing shoulder exoskeletons. And then I think we started seeing more back exoskeletons. And then I think here we're seeing the consumer exoskeletons. So my prediction is that the consumer exoskeletons will be a large market next year. So that'll be my prediction.
And then let's hope that we are also able to get some of the producer companies as guests.
I hope so. Yes. Please reach out to Bobby, and we'd love to get some producers on there. And then maybe Bobby, somehow we could get maybe the producers could get us in touch with some of these unbelievable people testing these exoskeletons. You could go on the web, and Bobby and I were watching some videos of like people on bikes going up unbelievable inclines, then going down inclines, doing flips on bikes. I mean, it was like crazy. They have people running, they have people going over mountains, they have people skiing. So I think they called it, what did they call it, Bobby? Boot tracking, I guess. I was thinking,
yeah, that you,
tracking, but they called it boot tracking because you want to get you want to walk up a really steep slope with your skis, and then ski down.
And turn off the device in transparent mode and ski down. Was it boot packing? I think it was boot packing.
Boot packing. Let me see. I can even pull up a web. Just to give people some ideas, these consumer exoskeletons are thinking about walking, race walking, which really tried to increase your pace. I tried that. Uphill, downhill, upstairs, downstairs, gravel, cycling, running, mountain, and they called it boot packing. And then dune, and we think for dune they meant walking in sand.
Yeah, we do have a sand pit. I forgot about that. We could have tried that too.
Oh wait, I guess what we could have done is give this to people on a golf course, and then they got to walk a long time. Then they got to go into the sand, and then they got to maybe walk up some big hills if they totally miss. And anyway, you could come to Phoenix and play some golf.
That is a wonderful idea. Well, to wrap it up, thank you all for listening. Thanks again to all of our Patreon supporters. Please, it's both a moral support and a financial support. I wish that we had the financial backing or grants to popularize exoskeleton technology, so we don't have to ask you for support. But unfortunately, that is not the case right now. So we are asking for support. We have more than 20 episodes on exoskeletons in this podcast alone. You can see them by topic. You can watch them in chronological order. I think that you will find all of them to be quite informative. And we are also now releasing more and more videos on TikTok. So follow us, like, subscribe, support, and thank you for listening and for your time.
Thank you.